Former UK MP, Mandarin and English, Part 2.
It's got the long dash as well, so I know that's the ChatGPT part. What do you call those funny dashes that are very long? Yes, Americans use them, I think. We don't really use them as much. And so actually, I was, for 5 years, I was the UK's chief spokesman, head of comms at the British consulate in Shanghai, in East China. I'm very happy to talk with anyone after it, but limited time today to talk about that. It was a very interesting role at that time. And here's what I believe. This is what I believe. And the background, I haven't written this down, but for many years, when I first went to China, Chinese people would say to me, "Oh, we're just not creative. You know, 我们没有创意，你们西方人老外非常有创意。" And他们说死板, and I said,迟早, there will come a time when you will move up the value chain, or you will move up the innovation and creativity. This will happen. This has always been my belief. In the 1980s, China, I say couldn't even manufacture a ball pen, and that was in the 1980s. And at the beginning of COVID in 2020, 2021, you almost, very close, you had a vaccine that was almost as good as what AstraZeneca, Pfizer and others were producing in such a short period of time. And I believe that the creativity, I believe soft power, it will flow from hard power. And unfortunately, the world is in a hard power phase at the moment, whether it's looking at Ukraine, it's looking at Gaza, it's looking at competition in the Arctic, or indeed tensions in the Asia Pacific. When the world is in this mode, soft power does take a back seat, but it doesn't disappear, it waits. And I still believe, especially with people here today, is that China can and will do better when it comes to trying to explain itself to the world, or as you like to say in China, you know what I'm going to say now, is 假好中国故事. So this eventually will come, and very looking forward to your panel discussion this afternoon for what that may look like. But this could be tricky. And looking at Robin here, not Robin himself, but as a former BBC man, is that it can be very difficult in relation to a British audience, especially if you're trying to tell the story of China, or indeed anyone, because our nation is a very cynical nation. We like to criticize. It's part of our democracy. Many aspects of that are good. It's a very Socratic thing, it's trying to get to the bottom of things. But sometimes it's kind of tight big one. And I think if there's one thing that's a mindset thing, I think the rest of the world can actually learn from China, is Gigi. 我用一个比较土的一个词嘛，那个正能量嘛，所以可能10年你都没有用到现在你这么说这个词吧。So I do believe there's much to learn there, but it was quite interesting. It's one of Robin's former colleagues who anonymized. And I remember 4 or 5 years ago, I said to him, in my constituency, 我以前的选区在那个曼彻斯特附近的波尔顿东北选区嘛， and I used to say to him, 我很想那个轻轨，如果上海北京，我就每天我就看，哇，新的一个，哇，5号线今天，哎呀，明天6号线吧。And I said, 我们也可以有。So I was very hopeful that Bolton could have its Metrolink from the rest of Manchester into Bolton. And I said to this very influential, important BBC journalist who hangs around Westminster, and I said to him, I was like, if I was able to get the money and we were able to build this in 5-6 years, do you think my constituents would be happy? And he said, no. He said, they'll still complain, they'll still think you're crap and whatever else. And I thought, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? So anyway, nation building, branding, whatever. I'm looking forward to some answers on this. And the other thing is, which brings me great delight, is actually that I do see the soft power positive achievements starting to filter through. So whether it's electric vehicles, again, the event I was at last night, Biadi, it won an award, and there's been a huge increase, not just in Biadi buses, but also Biadi cars in UK and other Western markets. We obviously have had La Bubu, and 对我来讲太可爱了嘛，这个东西 but 我可以理解. And it was great that the Prime Minister, on his visit last week to China, there was a big